My name is Caroline Mitchell, and I live in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of Portland, Oregon. Life for me had been a mix of routines, early mornings with coffee on the porch, working at the small community library, and spending evenings reading or baking something for the neighbors. I wasn't the type to expect any big changes in my life, especially not from family visits. But everything shifted one summer when my nephew, Daniel Carter, came to stay with me for a few months. What I didn't know at the time was that he would end up teaching me something far deeper than I could have imagined, what true respect and a healthy attitude toward women really looks like. Daniel was 19 when he arrived. His mother, my sister Hannah, had asked if I could take him in for the summer. He had just finished his first year at college, and things had been a little rocky for him. Not in the sense that he was getting into trouble, but more that he was still figuring out his path in life. Hannah thought a change of scenery might help. I didn't mind at all. I loved my nephew, though we'd only seen each other during family holidays or quick weekend visits. He'd always been polite, though quiet, and I figured this would be a chance to get to know him better. The first few days were simple enough. He unpacked in the guest room, helped me carry some heavy boxes to the attic, and spent hours exploring the local parks. But soon, I began to notice something different about Daniel. He carried himself with a calm confidence, not arrogance, but a quiet kind of self-assuredness. He didn't interrupt when I spoke, he listened fully, and when I offered him something to drink or asked for help, he would answer with a soft smile and a genuine, "Of course, Aunt Caroline." It struck me because, in today's world, it's rare to see such deliberate courtesy from someone so young. One Saturday afternoon, we decided to visit the Saturday market downtown. The place was buzzing with life, artists selling paintings, musicians playing guitars, the smell of fresh kettle corn drifting through the air. I remember at one point, a woman was struggling to carry a large canvas painting she had just bought. People passed her without much notice, but Daniel immediately stepped forward and asked if she needed help. She hesitated at first, clearly surprised, but then she nodded. He carried the painting for her all the way to her car, chatting kindly along the way, and when she offered him a tip, he shook his head and said, "I just wanted to make your day a little easier." It was such a small act, but I couldn't help smiling to myself. That kind of unprompted kindness wasn't just habit, it was who he was. Over the next few weeks, I saw this pattern again and again. If we went to the grocery store, he'd hold the door open for strangers. If a neighbor was struggling with yard work, he'd offer to help. When I was carrying laundry up the stairs, he'd quietly take the basket from me. But it wasn't just physical help, it was the way he spoke to people. He looked them in the eyes, listened without rushing them, and never made them feel like their thoughts or stories were unimportant. One evening after dinner, we sat on the porch as the sun dipped low. The air was warm, the kind of summer evening that feels endless. I decided to ask him about it. "Daniel," I said, "can I ask you something?" "Sure," he replied, leaning back in his chair. "I've noticed the way you treat people, especially women. You're polite, patient, you listen. That's not something I see from everyone your age. Where does that come from?" He smiled faintly, looking out at the fading light. "I guess. Mom taught me a lot, but so did Grandpa. They always said, respect isn't just manners, it's making someone feel safe, heard, and valued." He paused, thinking. "And I've seen enough guys my age act like they're entitled to attention or like women owe them something. I don't ever want to be that way. I want the women in my life to know they can trust me." His words settled in my heart like a stone in a still pond, rippling outward. I'd always known Daniel was a good kid, but hearing him put it into words like that, it gave me hope. A few days later, we attended a small family gathering at my cousin Rachel's house. Rachel's daughter, Emily, is around Daniel's age, and she had invited some friends over as well. While most of the young adults were in the backyard chatting, I noticed Daniel was sitting at the picnic table talking to Rachel's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Harper. She was in her late 70s, a bit hard of hearing, and not many people made the effort to include her in conversation. But Daniel sat there for nearly half an hour, asking her about her garden, her late husband, and her favorite books. She lit up in a way I hadn't seen before. When the evening wound down, Mrs. Harper came over to me. "Caroline," she said softly, "your nephew, he's a rare one. There's a respect in him you don't see much anymore." Her words stuck with me. Later that night, as we were driving home, I mentioned it to Daniel. He shrugged modestly, saying, I think everyone deserves to feel like they matter. Sometimes all it takes is listening." The summer went on like that. We took hikes, visited museums, baked cookies for the neighborhood kids. And slowly, I realized that the lesson I was getting from him wasn't just about men respecting women. It was about how everyone should treat everyone else. But there was still a moment to come that would truly bring his attitude into sharp focus for me. It was late August, about a week before Daniel was supposed to head back to college. We were walking home from the library when we passed by a small cafe. Inside, I saw a young woman, maybe in her 20s, looking visibly uncomfortable as a man at another table leaned toward her, speaking in a way that made her glance nervously toward the door. Before I could even process what I was seeing, Daniel slowed his step. "Aunt Caroline," he said quietly, "I'll meet you at home." I watched as he walked into the cafe, approached the woman, and said something I couldn't hear. She looked relieved, and he gestured toward the door. Together, they walked outside. The man inside muttered something under his breath, but didn't follow. When Daniel caught up to me a few minutes later, the young woman had already headed in the opposite direction. "What happened?" I asked. "She didn't know the guy," Daniel explained. "He kept bothering her even after she told him to stop. I just told her I was a friend and offered to walk her outside. She thanked me and said she was fine to walk the rest of the way home." There was no bravado in his tone, no attempt to make himself seem heroic. To him, it was just the right thing to do. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. In a world where too many women have stories of being ignored, dismissed, or made to feel unsafe, my 19-year-old nephew was quietly showing what real protection, empathy, and respect looked like, not through grand speeches, but through consistent, everyday actions. When the day finally came for Daniel to leave, we stood by my car, his suitcase packed in the back. "Thank you for letting me stay, Aunt Caroline," he said, giving me a warm hug. "I should be the one thanking you," I replied. "You've reminded me of something important, that there's still so much kindness and decency in the world. And I think you're going to make a lot of lives better, just by being who you are." He gave a small smile. "I hope so."